That's because my mic is muted. I'm talking crazy about you behind my mic. I will start over now that I got that right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Welcome for being here at TVP Radio. I'm the host, Mr. R2. I'm with the beautiful co-host, the Aries Queen.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
All right, today's show is a very, very, very special show. If you did not know, today, the month of August is National Black Business Month. So we're going to take you through this timeline. We're going to take you through conversations about Freedom Town. We're going to take you through conversations about other Black Wall Streets that you may or may not have or had known about. So we're going to take you along this journey. But before we start, we're going to bring in this small little video. I think you'll find it very interesting. I did. If not, you're all right. You'll be okay. Yeah. You'll be very okay. So before we start, I almost messed up. I hate when I do that. But anyway, I'm going to make sure, man, hush. I want to make sure we got sound and not do like we did last week.
Right. Yeah, this is going to be a good show.
Look crazy. All right, so here we go. Let's talk about it. Well, let's look at it.
Number of African-American towns that were established. Some suggest upwards of 50 African-American towns between 1924 and 1928. Reverend S.S. Jones was going around documenting this sort of self-determined, vibrant African-American communities. You see the African-American educators, doctors, lawyers, landowners, oil barons. And I think that's what's so remarkable about this footage. To think that individuals, how many years out of slavery, are now owning oil wells that are producing 2,000 barrels a day. Is that not the ultimate American dream? Is that not the ultimate American story? It flies in the face of what I think some people consider part of African-American history and culture. And I think that was one of the things that Oklahoma and what S.S. Jones is really kind of showing is that African-American history and culture is not a monolith. And in a way, it became kind of like a marketing tool to encourage individuals to migrate, to move there, that this is a place where you can live, you can thrive, and really reside. There were still palpable racial tensions. There are lynching, there's Jim Crow, segregation, there's all of these things, and you still have an African-American community or many communities that really speak to the fortitude and resilience of Black people in this country.
That was deep. I like that. So as you can see, if you can see this, go ahead and start your watch party, because what we're going to do is definitely tap in to what you don't know and going to enlighten you to bring in a little bit of information on things that you do know. But as you can see, make sure you start your watch party, because there may be someone on your timeline that may need to know about the information that we're going to discuss. Everyone knows the conversation about slavery. Everyone knows the conversation about Juneteenth.
Right.
But let's go past that. Let's go after that. We can talk about 1865. We can talk about June 19th, 1865. Blah, 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 blah. So let's talk about the Freedom Towns. Because I think the Freedom Towns was the beginning of economics. Because in these freedom towns, economics began to prosper, and economics honestly began to make sense to people that they did not have to go shop with someone else because they have it within their own community. So Ms. Kim is going to drop bombs and knowledge about freedom towns, and then I'm going to come back and hit you in the head and talk about these other Black Wall Streets that you may or may not have known about. So Ms. Kim, let's go ahead and drop it on them.
All right. Peace and blessings, everyone. We're going to talk about Black towns, or what we call the freedom towns, and most affectionately what we call our Black Wall Streets. And there were plenty of these. Now, I went into liberty of going to a couple of sites, at least 3 sites, to pull up some information. And let me go to one real quick. And this one is in Oklahoma, of course. Now, people don't know that Oklahoma, and I'm an Oklahoman. I was raised there, born in Texas, but raised in Oklahoma. Oklahoma was a territory, and it had a lot of, free land. And what we're taught in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma schools and stuff is about, the boomer type of historical things. You had like your boomers and your Sooners, and they had this free land, and they had this land where people could then stake their claims to, this land in so-called Indian territory. But what had happened after slavery was there was a call for blacks to come and get this free land. And a lot of blacks were recently freed from slavery, went into Oklahoma territory and staked their claims. And thus, there was like a whole bunch of black towns in Oklahoma. So let me go to this real quick. And I'm just reading it. I know I can share it, Ron, but let me read it real quick. So it says the all black towns of Oklahoma represent a unique chapter in American history. Nowhere else, neither in the deep South nor in the far West, did so many African American men, women come together to create, occupy, and govern their own communities. And this was from 1865 to 1920. African Americans created more than 50 identifiable towns and settlements, some of short duration and some still existing at the beginning of the 20th century. Of course, everybody knows about Tulsa and Black Wall Street, and Mr. R2 is going to get into that. But let me go ahead and share my screen. Here I go, Ron. I'm going to share the screen real quick and show you what I'm talking about here. So if anybody can see that. Mr. R2, can you see that? Can you see it? Okay, I don't know if I lost him or not, but here you go. So this is one of the websites that I'm at. So okhistory.org talks about these towns in Oklahoma. And so we have some names we've got Marshalltown, Norfolk Colored, Canadian Colored, all of these all black towns. I know Boley, Oklahoma was one. I know Tulsa was an all black town. It was the capital of Oklahoma. They renamed the capital of Oklahoma, Oklahoma City. There were a lot of black towns there. And just what I want you to understand that African Americans did in this time, they put forth in making these towns deliberately. These towns weren't shanty towns. They weren't shacks. They weren't ghetto. They were clean. They were affluent, purposeful towns that they made so they can live and thrive, and so that their children can live and thrive in these towns. And within these towns, they, of course, because due to segregation or black codes at the time, they had to, subsist on themselves because they couldn't go to, any of the outside communities. All right. Let's see, here's one. It says white distrust also limited the growth of these all black towns. As early 11 whites in Oksauquee County attempted to block further immigration and to force African Americans into mixed but racially segregated communities incapable of self-support. So, here, what we have here is a deliberate attack on African Americans, especially on their economic wealth, where the whites were trying to limit them from making their towns. Okay, and even if they had a town, they would try to, they would burn them down, run them out. Okay, because again, when a people are self-sufficient and they don't need to depend on the oppressors, then there goes the power of the oppressor. So that's one of them. So let me get back here. Let me get back. All right. All right. So, that's just one of the websites that you can go to. Again, it is okhistory.org. And it'll tell you a lot about OK history, and especially about all Black towns. That's where you want to search for that. So again, there's another one, and there's plenty of information on this. There's a lot of information on this. So there were many churches that served as schoolhouses. And the Black church was especially a meeting place for these Black towns. But here's one thing I want you all to understand, and this is about when people talk about their 40 acres and a mule. I want my 40 acres and a mule. When I'm going to get that? Well, that land was given, okay, and it was given in South Carolina under issue of General William T. Sherman issued the Special Order Number 15, in which land in Georgia and South Carolina was set aside as homestead for the freed people. Okay, and so this was supposed to be that 40 acres that was set aside. Okay, so it was already given. So there's not any more 40 acres and a mule that's going to be given, you guys. All right. But here's another thing. Lacking the authority to skate and distribute the land, both powers of Congress and the appropriation and distribution of the land was not fully realized. All right. One of the main purposes of the Freedmen's Bureau, however, was to redistribute to the former slaves lands that had been abandoned and confiscated by the federal government. But in 1866, land that ex-Confederates had left behind was reinstated to them. And again, here's another attack on, Blacks in getting economic power and economic wealth through land. But even despite all of this, we managed to, build our towns anyway. And there's towns, when we talk about the continental U.S., but there was also freedom towns all the way up into Canada and even Nova Scotia. Okay, so again, there are so many freedom towns. The list is long, and I can find a website and I can put it in there where you can get the list of freedom towns. But one that comes to mind as far as in Texas is, Prairie View. Then that's where people have the college, Prairie View A&M. But Prairie View was a Black town and still is. All right. So, they're still thriving. They're still vibing. Not as they were in their heyday, but, it's up to us to, rebuild these towns ourselves. You know what I'm saying? It's up to us to, with the spirit of those first freed people, they built these towns. I mean, can you imagine being a slave all of your life? The first generation out of slavery builds an affluent, economically self-sustaining town.
Yeah.
Out of slavery. They educate their own children. They have their own banks, own organizations, oil wells. Hell, I even heard about some of them having their own, some Blacks own their own plantations where crops were grown on.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a reality, right? So, this is the first generation out of slavery. So, for us today, not even having been touched by slavery at all, okay, let's be real about that. Looking back on what was done when they had so little, what is stopping us now from creating the future that we want to have for ourselves and, and for our children? What is stopping us?
Right.
So look, wherever you can, buy land, because they're not going to make any more.
Right. Because I mean, like the Freedom Towns is weird. It's like every east of whatever
Hmm.
was a Freedom Town back in the day.
Right, across the railroad
Yeah.
tracks, right? Because you could live within boundaries of white society. You
Right.
had to live on the outskirts of town.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Like
all these old what you call ghettos, or these dilapidated old southern towns and stuff, even in the West, even in Western states, where you see most majority Black people living at, those were freedom towns.
right. Yeah. Like East Austin was Black, was their
Mm-hmm.
Freedom Town, and then you got East Nashville, same thing. East San Antonio,
Mm-hmm.
same thing. East side of Temple, the same thing, which I
The East
learned
Side
because
in Oklahoma City is Black.
I'm trying to figure out what is it about the East.
Hey, we from the East. To the East, my brother. Come on.
Yeah, but it's weird. It's
Yeah,
like the East was or is the Black side of town, except in Killeen. I mean, the North
yeah,
side
yeah.
for us in this area, they call
Right.
that, the 401. But for some geographical designation, put those neighborhoods on the east side of town. But the good thing about it, that those towns began
I
to thrive.
Yeah. Hmm. When left alone to our own devices,
Yeah,
we thrived, and that threatened the core of white supremacy. That threatened their economics, superiority, for lack of a better word, that they had
right,
over African Americans. That threatened them, and so you can't. They wanted their slaves back.
right,
And so, and I know we were talking earlier about, you're saying that they didn't own the land in some places. This land was leased.
right. And I mean, again, like I was saying, for some, I mean, you can read it how you want to read
Mhm.
it. You can see it how you want to see it. Me personally, like I said before, I think the reason why Black Wall Street was never rebuilt, again, this is just
Mhm.
me. I mean, y'all can see it and say it how you want to say it. I don't believe they owned the land. I don't believe, I mean, a lot of the land was taken from them. If they did own it, um,
Mhm.
I believe there were people who had insurance on it. That's why I feel that it was never able to rebuild, because how can the banks and the restaurants and the oil wells and stuff like that not have the money to rebuild in another location? Again, that's just my thoughts. Um, I just don't see how. I wish they did.
Mhm.
I mean, you can go back to Tulsa and see some of the remnants of the area, the district, but a lot of it, I mean, is pretty much gone. So
Right.
I'm gonna show you guys what I found. It was pretty interesting. So, all right. So again, happy National Black Business Month. For those that did not know, the month of August is National Black Business Month. And again, I'm going to take you through this time capsule to place inside of your mind that there were more than Oklahoma and Black Wall Street. So let's go ahead and do it. The other Black Wall Streets. So again, I'm going to take you down this path, and there were some very interesting things that I found about these other Black Wall Streets, especially some that I didn't know, that there was this major highway that everyone knows about was built
Mm.
through this particular city,
Mm.
and who and why the name. So, all right, the very first city was Haiti Community in Durham, North Carolina.
Mhm.
So now in the early 1900s, Haiti Community, yes, Haiti, they took the name of Haiti because Haiti's, what was it, 1840? Was that the year? I forgot the
Of
gentleman
of
that.
the of the of
Yes,
the revolution.
yes,
It was I think it was 18 in like the 1870s. I can actually check that. Matter of fact, since
right.
we have computers in our hand nowadays.
Right. So what this town did was name this community after Hades because they were the first freed republic in the Western Hemisphere. So they named their community after Haiti because Haiti was free. So in the early 1900s, Haiti was the first Black community to become fully self-sufficient and built Lincoln Hospital, staffed by Black doctors and lawyers, as well as theaters, libraries, hospitals, and over 200 businesses in North Carolina. Central University was founded in Haiti in 1910 and became the first liberal arts HBCU to be state funded in 1925.
And by the way, that Haitian Revolution was in 1791, and it became an independent nation January 1st, 1804.
Okay, 1804. So they took this community and named it after Haiti because that was the very first freed republic. So for those that are in Durham, North Carolina, the Bull, shouts out to you and the lineage. And I would love to meet a family that had family in old Haiti community in Durham, North Carolina. All right. The next one is Jackson Ward in Richmond, Virginia. Again, this was part of the 20th century. Jackson Ward Business and Entertainment District was called Harlem of the South, hosting names of Ella Fitzgerald, Duke Ellington, Richmond's own. I hope that Bojangles made chicken. Now I'm just playing. Bill Bojangles Robinson. In 1910, the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank opened in Jackson Ward. Its owner was Maggie L. Walker, the first Black woman to found a bank in the U.S.
Yeah.
So again, it was not just Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There were other self-funded, self-sufficient settlements outside of Oklahoma. Now, a lot of them migrated and pushed out west to Oklahoma, but a lot of it was actually on the East Coast as well. Again, shouts out to the Maggie L. Walker family. I hope they are still doing something. I would love to learn more about her. I probably do some research. That was very interesting. When I found this out. I've never heard of the Jackson Ward business settlement, or it was called as the Harlem of the South in Richmond.
Okay. I've never heard of that either. That's the first time, I've heard of that too. And I just found out that the first Black town in America was in Brooklyn, in Illinois. And, it's called Eatonville, and it says Eatonville is historically remarkable. It is proud of its place in the nation's oldest included all-Black community, and as the hometown of an American literary legend, Zora Neale Hurston. Today, folks can visit her museum or the library named after her in her honor in Eatonville. Is that no, not sorry, that's Eatonville, Florida. Excuse me. Okay. But Illinois is, what was it? A all-Black town. It was 1830 to 1915. So, all of this stuff, we got computers at our fingertips, folks. If you want to know about Black towns, all you got to do is type it into Google search, and you can go find out, where these places were. Because a lot of us, don't know that we're standing on or living there or next to it.
Right.
And you'll be like, wow, I lived here all my life and I did not know this, Yeah. So, but I didn't even know they had like a Haiti, what was that, South Carolina?
No, that was in Durham,
North Carolina. Durham. Yeah, I didn't even know it was named like that. So, here I am, 48 years old, things about, Black history and the Black towns that we have.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is 4th Avenue District in Birmingham, Alabama. During the heart of the Jim Crow era, this population of Birmingham, Alabama, was much different from the city's current demographics. But in 1950, most of the city's 37%, it's almost like clean, 37% Black population did their business in downtown area of 4th Avenue, known as the Black Business District. And the area also was known as Little Harlem. So again, the influence of what was happening up north have begun to transition down south. But they are understanding that if we're going to survive, there has to be economics in our community if we're ever going to do anything that's going to advance what we're doing within our communities forward, because economics is the engine of should be the engine of your movement.
And going back to one of the sources that I have here, let me get back on here and let me let you go through yours, because I don't want to overstep you and share a screen. And so continue.
Now, one thing I did learn about Jackson Ward in Richmond, Virginia, which I was telling you before this, they actually came in this city, and the city council dismantled this city when they voted to push I-95, as you know today, through the city. So this Jackson Ward Black Business District was actually pushed out so they can push I-95 up north. So you're riding past history. If you ever drove from North Carolina all the way up to Philly and New York and New Jersey, you rode through history, especially if you rode through Richmond, Virginia, because once you get over that hill in between Tennessee and Virginia, then you hit straight, you hit 95 and you go up north, you're going to run through Richmond, Virginia.
Wow. Okay.
So the last one, which Kim,
Oklahoma,
which Kim had
when I was a little girl. Yes.
Yeah, she had mentioned a little bit about it. This town was incorporated in 1905. Supported a newspaper, 2 colleges, its own water system, and a Black-owned electrical plant in the early 1900s. A few years later, we call it Boley,
Oklahoma.
Boley boasted 5 grocery stores, 5 hotels, 7 restaurants, 4 cotton gins, 3 drugstores. They did the damn thing here in Boley, Oklahoma. Now, you said you've been through Boley?
Was rife with Black towns. I mean, as a little girl, they had Boley Rodeo. So Boley Rodeo was a Black rodeo where you saw Black cowboys, riding on horses and stuff like that and all that kind of stuff. And I got to experience that as a child because my father used to take us to that all the time. And so, that was an event. Spencer, Oklahoma, it was one of that just came to mind. Spencer, Oklahoma is an all Black town, so Oklahoma was like open to, newly freed Blacks at that time. And what happened during the, again, with the Boomer Sooner, thing was, once they started, opening up that land, Indian territory, here come the whites, and stole a lot of the land or killed a lot of Blacks for their land. But they want to tell you this story of how the whites came in and they staked their claim. They were claiming land that Blacks already had already.
Yeah, that's deep.
And so, they pushed them off and nationalized them off, like we said, in Oklahoma City into the east side and stuff like that. But, my father was telling me the history about Boley, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's Black history as I was coming up as a child, because that just was not taught in school. You just had to hear it from, the old folks and stuff. You think people like, what, are there any Blacks in Oklahoma? I said, yeah, but plenty of Black towns in Oklahoma you don't even hear about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But one thing we definitely want to let you guys know, especially before we end this. Now, we're definitely making history right here in Bell County itself. So being that this month is National Black Business Month, we're going to make history here in Killeen, Bell County, whatever you want to call it. So we're having a proclamation to designate in this city from a local perspective, National Black Business Month. So we have a proclamation from the city of Killeen. We have a proclamation from the city of Nolanville. We're also waiting on Copper's Cove to get back with us, Harker Heights to get back with us, Temple, Belton as well. So on the 10th of August, we're going to have the National Black Business Month proclamation, which is going to be read at the Bell County Courthouse. As you can see, the address 101 West Central Avenue, Belton, Texas, on the second floor, courtroom, August 10th at 9 a.m., where they will read the proclamation for this year forward. In the month of August, the County of Bell will recognize National Black Business Month here in Bell County. Again, we're being advocates for the culture of business. In order for us to push this needle forward, we have to do things that need to be done to advocate for what's fair instead of advocating for what does not make sense. Of course, make sure we're going to push more information out to make sure you guys sign up for it. During COVID, I'm sure there's going to be some numbers that they're going to allow the amount of individuals to go inside. So I'm going to go up there tomorrow to see for myself. I've never been to the Bell County Courthouse, not the old school, but I've been to the courthouse that's over there, the new one, but I haven't been to the old one. Right. So again, you'll see it on the TBP link. I'll push it on the Texas Black Pages link, and I'll push it on the IBCC link to let you guys know that there will be a reading of proclamation, and we're going to try to do something special. If you don't know, the oldest operating Black-owned business in Bell County is the Bradford and Dawson Funeral Home in Temple. That funeral home has been in operation since 1920. So we're going to give them their flowers while they are still alive. So my vision, what I want is to give flowers to Babatunde, not physical flowers. We're actually going to give them something. I want to give back to Babatunde, Mr. Belfort downtown, who's been operating for a long time. The gentleman that owns BMW tent. And there's also a Black-owned hair salon on W.S. Young. I need to get. I wrote it down. I forgot her name. Freeman. She gave me the name. I think she's been operating for about maybe 32, 33 years. Of course, Mr. Ron Grace, and that business that is in Temple. So these individuals have been stakeholders in this economy, and they have been operating for a very long time. So we want to give them their flowers while they're alive and tell them thank you for what you have done, and thank you for what you're doing to perpetuate the culture of Black businesses and going forward. So again, there will be more information that's going to go out about the proclamation reading on the 10th of August at 9 o'clock at the Bell County Courthouse. The Bell County will recognize again the month of August from 2020 forward as National Black Business Month. Now, what do you do during National Black Business Month? You can do whatever you want to do in 2021 for Black Business Month. You can create your Black Business Month discount at your restaurants or for your shopping or whatever you want to do for your business going forward, as long as you recognize it. They're putting out, like yesterday, so, this is National Girlfriends Month. I'm sitting like, okay, you're missing out on Black Business Month. Most of it is like that because people don't know. So we're giving them the information. You can research it yourself to see about Black Business Month. So we're going to be doing a lot of things in the community from the IBCC perspective and on Texas Black Pages side as well. I'm doing a lot of things different for this month, but I'll push it out on those particular channels. But again, thank you guys for being here at TBP Radio. And Ms. Kim, you got any last words?
Yes, we shouldn't forget Miss Brown. Has been here
since I was 5.
Yes. But we shouldn't forget her. You know, she is, that runs owns and operates the Harker Heights Center. She, give her flowers too. Because she was here when Carolyn, Sessions by Carolyn doing hair and a host of other things. So definitely want to give Miss Carolyn her shout out, because I know she'll be in somebody's inbox like, y'all forgot. They're like, no, ma'am. But as always, we appreciate you all tuning in to us here at TBP Radio. We know that you have other things to do, but you tune in to us and you listen to us, give you what it is. And again, we want to give our thanks to that. And as always, folks, if Black business ain't your business, it's not in your foremind, it has to be our business, so we have to pass this on to the next generation. right? Because a community that can't sustain itself will end up not thriving at all. It won't even be a community anymore, right? So we have to continue to push forward, continue to educate one another, and continue to always stay woke.